Oh, sorry, I was distracted by my new phone. Well, this may be the case for many of you, but the question is, what did you do with your old phone? Did you trade it in for a couple $100 even though you spent about 1,000 or 800 just a few months ago? Hopefully not. Hopefully you kept it. And I'll tell you why, because if you kept that phone, well, you got yourself a pretty decent little machine there that is the equivalent of the Switch or even better. So let's find out how you can turn your old phone into a gaming powerhouse. So, if you're a casual gamer, well, guess what? Not much needs to change. You can take that existing old phone of yours and use something like Apple Arcade if you're on iOS, or Google's equivalent of Google Play, and about $5 a month, right? You can play as many mobile games as you like. And the wonderful thing about that is most of those mobile games will run on your device just fine, especially if your device is only a couple of years old. In fact, you'll probably be able to run it at some of the higher settings if you bought some of the flagship phones like the Samsung S20, 21, the S20 Note, things like that on the Android side. And if you were sporting something along an XR or an 11 on the iPhone side, well, your phone is pretty much more than capable of running every single game out there, even at the highest settings for the most part, I would say. But this is a gaming channel and we do video game culture, so I'm guessing if you're watching this, it's because you want to turn your device into a powerhouse. Now, the beauty of it is that there are so many options available depending on what type of gamer you are and how you want to control a lot of these games. And a lot of games nowadays have beyond just touch controls. You can actually get a controller for your device depending on how deep a gamer you want to be. So let's talk about your controller options. Now, you can pair one of these bad boys, and I'm using the Xbox controller here because, well, I prefer it against the PS4 or PS3 controllers, but you can pair anything that's basically Bluetooth at this point to most devices, and that's Apple or Android. But if you want something that is a little more tactical on the go, well, you can kind of get one of these guys if you're on the Android side for the 8-bit dough Xbox edition. So you can see it's got that little Xbox one, especially if you're paying for Ultimate Game Pass, and we'll talk about that in a minute. This kind of gives you that SNES feel with the little Xbox button here, and it gives you the ability to attach your phone right to the top. But if you have your own little stand for your phone, you can take that off and boom, there you go. And this guy, the price range is anywhere between $50 and $60 on a given day. I've seen it drop as low as $40, so you just have to be aware of what's happening from a sales perspective on Amazon or Best Buy or any one of those sites. Now, getting really specific, if you're one of those folks that had one of the Razer phones, right? If you were a gamer, you had the Razer 1, the Razer 2, or a couple of the other Samsung phones. They're a little older, like the Samsung 9 version, right? Well, then you can use this guy right here, which is the Razer Jungle Cat. And this device is really great. I love it because you can get these cases that go on that device. And I'm going to use the Razer Phone 2 as an example. And boom, it's like having a Switch on the go. As you can see here, it fits perfectly. Bluetooth controllers. Now, it's a little weird because you have to charge these independently, and they're USB-C, so you have to charge one at a time, basically, unless you have multiple connections that are free from a USB-C perspective. But the charge does last about 20 hours, so it's really amazing, and it really does give you that feel. And the controller is great. You can pick this guy up anywhere between, I've seen it for $69 up to $99. The price is probably definitely dropping as of now because their new line came out, and we're going to look at that in a second. But this is a great option for you. And finally, my favorite option of them all is this guy right here. It's also from Razer, the Razer Kishi controller. Now this guy, they sell a iPhone edition and they sell an Android edition, as long as your USB-C and your device doesn't go past 6.8 inches or something like that. But this is awesome because you just kind of clip it in here and you have yourself, my friends, the equivalent of what feels like a really sturdy portable device. And I love this thing. It also has a power pass-through, and I don't know if you can see it here, but it's got a power pass-through right at the top here, at the bottom here, where you can plug it in and power your device at the same time. So it really is great. Feels good. So these are some of the options just to get you started from a hardware perspective. Now the next thing you're going to want to invest in, depending on what type of device you have, of course, if your phone allows it, you're gonna want to get extra memory, right? So invest in that micro SD card if you're on the Android side and your device supports it, right? If you're on the iPhone, well, you're a little more limited. Hopefully you bought some extra storage, cleared out some of those photos that you don't need anymore, because you are going to want to use some of that space for games, right? And especially if you're renting something like Apple Arcade for the $5 a month, you want to be able to download all those games that you can and enjoy them, right? Because that's the whole purpose of getting a service like that. Now, here's the beauty of it, right? We have other services that, when we're talking about turning this thing into a powerhouse, well, if you combine it with Stadia, or you combine it with Microsoft Ultimate Game Pass, GeForce Now, any of those services that offer cloud-based gaming, you're set. I mean, you're going to be playing AAA titles as long as you have a good connection. And I recommend like connected to your Wi-Fi, of course, at home. On the road, if you can spare the extra money, you can get some pretty decent side plans too. And this could be something that you give to your kid as a distraction, so they don't drive you crazy while you're driving on that road trip or taking them a long train ride. And they can play Stadia, or they can play Ultimate Game Pass on the go as well. And now you've converted your old phone into this amazing portable system that basically rivals, I think, the Switch, because you have so many more options that you can use, right? So if you combine Google Stadia, if you use Ultimate Game Pass, if you combine that also with something like Apple Arcade, or the Google Play version of that, well, then you've got all the gaming on the go. Now, Ultimate Game Pass, you're going to have to finagle a bit to get to work on iOS using Safari and a plugin and all that stuff, but you can get it going. Now, the other thing that you want to consider with your old device is the fact that you can use emulation. Now, for Apple, it's a little more difficult, I will admit, but if you're an Android person and you've traded up to a new Android and you have an old Android, or maybe you just have one lying around and you move it into the iOS world, well, there are tons of options there. So if you want to emulate Dreamcast games, there's Redream, and I'll put a link to that emulator down there. For PSP, there's a few options for PSP. There's MAME. There's a few options for SNES. Like literally, if you just go into the search bar within Google Play and type whatever emulator you're looking for, you're going to find it. And so now you are carrying your old emulated games. Of course, you have copies of those, right? So you've bought these before. So we're not going to tell you where to get illegal copies. You've made copies because you own the originals, right? So you've transferred these over. Now you can play all your old SNES games, Game Boy games, Genesis games, Dreamcast games. And I'll tell you, Redream is amazing. Dolphin is a wonderful option for GameCube and Wii games. I'll tell you right now, like I played Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, which is one of those games that you can't really get anywhere and you don't find anywhere, has never been re-released. Well, now you can, and you can play it mobile and on the go. So combining all those services together, your device, that secondary phone, has now become a new portable gaming system in your home or on the road. So I'm that Game Dragon. You tell me, what are you using? What are you downloading? I'm going to put all the links below for all the different things you can use to convert your old phone into this powerhouse. If you have any questions, please ask them. I will try to answer them as best as I can. Remember, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know about all our great content, and also leave your comments and your questions. And I will see you next time.